Hiya! Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully lighting's going to be a little bit better. I'm trying to record this a bit early in the day, so got a bit of daylight left. Hence you can actually see me a bit better. Anyway, so I'm still practicing the new makeup routine, got some new products that came in. Anyway, forget that. So what have I been doing the last 24 hours? I've pretty much dedicated to watching one show, which is 13 Reasons Why, which you'll know obviously if you read the thumbnail and saw the information. So, 13 Reasons Why. I want to talk about this. I'd heard a little bit about this online, about how this was a really interesting series, got some really good reviews. Haven't heard much from my friends actually watching it, so it's not one of these things that's been making a lot of buzz, not in the ways that things like Stranger Things did, for example. Or even something like The Expanse, which I'm definitely going to talk about soon, which I'd heard a lot about from friends. So I'd heard nothing about 13 Reasons Why for anyone. But I caught it on Netflix, saw that it was available, heard a few people mention it online, you know, little bits and pieces. I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. This series, just a bit of background on it first, I'm not going to go into any spoilers, but the series takes place over 13 episodes, hence 13 Reasons Why. And it tells the story of a young girl who has committed suicide and is revealing information about people that have had an influence on her life over the course of 13 episodes, each of which is one side of a cassette tape, an old sort of audio cassette tape. So essentially like a sort of 60-minute episode, which is based around this girl narrating an event that happened, something that contributed to her decision to commit suicide. So, firstly, a lot of quite sort of adult content, obviously. The subject matter is quite a sensitive one. There's a lot of other things that happen, which I won't mention, that are relatively graphically depicted. So there's a lot to sort of be challenged with by this show. Now, I didn't have any expectations for it. I'd simply heard it's a good show. It's on Netflix. I thought, okay, I'll have a crack on this. First episode down, and I was really instantly hooked. The show did remind me of Stranger Things. It has got that same sort of audio palette of music, a lot of Cure. I love The Cure, and The Cure is a great choice for music for this kind of subject matter. Cure is obviously very angsty. It's typical teenager angst type music. I know I listened to quite a lot of The Cure when I was growing up, and songs like Close to Me, etc. are part of the sort of anthem of my youth. Back when I was a teenager, sort of struggling with all the terrible things that seemed so important to me at the time. The show has a really interesting narrative structure, and it is incredibly entertaining with how it addresses this reveal of what has happened throughout the film. And I wasn't really prepared for just how sort of cleverly restrictive it would be about how information is revealed, and in particular about how carefully they protect the sort of integrity of the storytelling motive. So the idea that the story is told as someone listens to these tapes is protected quite carefully. But when you're stretching out over 13, episodes, it's you can imagine how some people would simply barrel through those tapes really quickly, and you wouldn't get a decent drawn-out show from it. But they do a good job of explaining why it is that the character listening to the tapes actually takes so much time to go through them. Is really sort of struggling with listening to them quickly, and is giving them an awful lot of time and dedication. Let's put it that way. So I don't have any personal connection to this film. I have known people who have committed suicide, but only for example, in a very, very loose way. Someone through work, for example, who I had brief interactions with, but nothing really formal, and or even friendly or anything else like that. So I've never known anyone who's done that in a way that is really close to me. So I have no particular angle where I can say this is relating to me. I can understand this. This is speaking to me. One of the characters I relate to. What I will say, however, is that the dialogue is very good. The writing is really good. The acting by all the cast is excellent, given that they're all a relatively young cast. A lot of them I've not seen in anything before. Really, only the main boy from the film is someone who I've seen before. I recognised him from a very small part in Lost, and I think the characters did a really good job of portraying how you might react in this kind of situation. It reminded me slightly, this is really quite tangential in terms of the link, it reminded me slightly of an episode of a Black Mirror, where there's an episode where people are basically behaving in a certain way because they're being forced to by someone that is giving them directions. You must do this, you must go here, do this thing, meet this person, and you're not really sure why they are motivated to act in this way until right at the end. And then once you see that end reveal, and you understand why this character has acted in this way for the entire show, then you get it, and instantly it changes the way you saw the whole episode. It's a fantastic episode of Black Mirror. I thoroughly recommend anyone to watch that series. And this felt very similar to that, in that you were watching people throughout the show, and you maybe had an inkling that they had a story that you'd yet to hear, but it was coming, and you had a bit of an idea that something about them was on its way. There was some kind of reveal, something that you were going to understand better about them later on the show. And on that basis, it's gripping, and that for me is what made it such a great binge watch. The fact that you went from start to finish, understanding about these various characters, hearing their stories, feeling a degree of sympathy, empathy for different characters, understanding how they had contributed to events, but they hadn't been, let's say, directly culpable. I thought it was very, very clever writing. I'm interested as to whether they'll try and find a way to do like a second series of this, similar to when the BBC did Broadchurch. I find it quite hard to understand how you'd actually do a second series of Broadchurch without just having a new case. And this feels like it should be an anthology. At best, it should be an anthology. I could see this being something where they perhaps tell another story similar to the way True Detective did. Hopefully better second season of True Detective. But I really do wish that this is a one and done. I'd really like to see them have a bit of restraint, because when you think about what they could do next to keep it relevant to this show, how you could do something that didn't feel either like a copy, like another Suicide, which would be, I think, terrible, or maybe something else that happened, some kind of assault, some kind of traumatic experience. I think it would feel like it was insignificant in comparison to the events of this show. And I think it might feel like it was a little bit, say weak as a subject matter in comparison. Anyway, what I would say is that just to check, the two main leads of the film we have actually the three main leads, I'd say, because I think the third guy, the third person deserves a mention. I'm just reading these off because I don't know them. We've got Dylan Minette, who plays Clay. You have Catherine Langford as Hannah Baker, who is the girl who is doing the narrating, the girl who's made the tapes, the girl who committed suicide. And then you have Christian Navarro, who is the sort of friend type character who's there to either move things along or slow it down depending on what the story needs. He's kind of a place setter. One of the things that I did like about this is that I watched the film does jump around through times, and it was quite obvious that they were doing this, the reason why they're doing this, but right early on in the first episode, your main guy falls off his bike and cuts his head, and you're just thinking, as soon as I saw that, I thought, okay, now this is basically a sort of before and after thing, so every time he's got the scar, we know that we are sort of in the present, and every time he doesn't have the scar, we know we're in the past. A nice little trick, made it very easy to keep on top of what was going on, certainly in comparison to Westworld, which was really trying to mess with you a bit. I appreciated that. It was a nice way to just have a sort of very clear, this is present, this is past, and that was good. I thought that was a nice way for them to sort of keep things quite clear, and it meant that you weren't focused on where are we, you were focused on what's being revealed, the story, the plot, the intrigue, and trying to work out who's to blame. You know, is it any one of these friends, sort of people around? Is it Hannah herself? You know, who is it that's to blame? So I would give the show, out of 10, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a very good show, very easy to binge watch, very addictive. In fact, I would say it's so addictive that by the end of episode 4, I was anxious to get to the end, because I really felt like it definitely wasn't going to be concluded until the very last episode, and I really wanted to sort of, you know, get into it and get to that point where you understand everything, mainly because there's this whole conceit running through the series of why is Dylan, the sort of main character we're following, why is he involved? He's such a likeable guy. There's no spoilers here, but he's such a likeable guy. You know, why is he even involved in this? And you just want to know. You just want to get that final reveal. Is he really a good guy? Is he lying? Is Hannah lying? Are other people lying? You know, what's going on? And for that, the show was excellent. Really, really great show. So thoroughly recommend it. It's 13 Reasons Why. It's currently available in the UK on Netflix. I don't know where it came out in the US or elsewhere around the world, but I'm guessing if you've got Netflix, you can probably get a hold of it. It's got a curious backstory to it. It's supposed to be a film starring Selena Gomez, and she's actually producing it. So that's interesting. I like Selena Gomez. I liked her in a couple of films. So yeah, I won't say that this is a bad thing, but yeah, I think it would have been, having seen what we've got through the Netflix series, I certainly couldn't say I'd rather have seen a film starring Selena Gomez instead. Definitely not. Anyway, thank you for that. If you have seen it, leave me a comment, let me know if you're interested in seeing it again. Very interested to hear from anyone as to what they thought of the show, if they're interested in seeing the show, if there's any other series that are available for binge watching at the moment. Like I said, I also finished watching The Expanse recently. I'm definitely going to talk about that because yeah, anyway, there's something I really need to talk about with The Expanse, something that I've been itching to talk about for some time. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. Look forward to talking again soon. and bye. Bye.